Today we're going to be talking about what everybody's talking about in our industry, which is the Renters' Right Bill. We've been waiting to hear when this is finally going to get implemented. There was word on the street that this was going to be in as soon as May 2025. Clearly that never happened. We are now in September 2025 and we actually still don't have the exact date. This morning I followed a webinar hosted by the Letting Industry Council by Teresa Wallace, who hosted David Smith, and they talked about all of the items that fell under the Renters' Right Bill that everybody's talking about. But first of all, a bit on the timeline. Originally we thought that the bill would get Royal Assent by the end of September. That doesn't really seem to be happening anytime soon. We're about to hit party conference season that is going to be about 3 weeks, covering part of September and October. By the time they come back, we are kind of thinking Royal Assent to hit at the end of October, maybe even early November. Now that doesn't mean that the Renters' Right Bill will then be a fait accompli. It's not going to just start. It will have a direct impact on the current tenancies, and they will, from an AST, automatically become what we are going to be known as assured tenancies, although the child hasn't been given a name yet, so we don't know if it's going to be an AT or an APT for assured periodic tenancy. That is all still to be determined. But it does look that in reality, the implementation stages of this bill will only be early 2026, at which time we will have a bit of time to get to terms with changes in paperwork. None of that has yet been divulged. Nobody has told us yet what that tenancy agreement is going to look like, but it will give agents and landlords time to get everything in line and make sure that you are compliant, because things are going to change. As you might have heard, on Monday the 8th of September, the House of Commons sat down and discussed the latest on the Renters' Right Bill. As an industry, we were hoping and had lobbied for certain amendments to the bill that we feel was really needed to make sure that it was fair for both parties, tenants and landlords. What has come out of that meeting is very clear that the government is quite adamant on the bill being as it is written and that there will not be any changes made. The three amendments that we were hoping for first related to selling the property after you have served notice. So for now, all tenancies will become periodic. You as the landlord can indeed get vacant possession should you serve 4 months notice after the original first 8 months, so you have to honor a 12 months. However, if you have served notice, the way the bill reads right now is that you can then not re-let your property for 12 months. As an industry, we had asked for that to be reduced to 6 months. That has been declined. So definitely worth considering your future steps if you are thinking of selling in the near future. Please think about whether you will be renewing onto a new contract or whether you will already allow a periodic tenancy so that you can serve 4 months notice, but be sure that you are going to be selling, because if you don't, you will be paying that mortgage and any costs on that property for the next 12 months. The second amendment that we were hoping for is that under the bill, landlords will no longer be able to refuse pets in properties. Now here at Base, we are a very pet-friendly office. We have 2 little doggies here every day and we love our pets. And we have also seen that that does make for good long-term tenancies. Under the proposal, the industry had lobbied to say, fine, pets is not a problem, but let's put something in security for the landlord. Let that be a pet deposit, be an extra 2 weeks or whatever it is. Let's discuss this. It has been declined. So maximum that you can ask for is a 5 weeks deposit, and that will have to cover also any pet damage. The third part was about students. So under the legislation, the notice, if you have a student HMO, you can indeed serve notice to get vacant possession in order to allow for the student terms to be fulfilled. However, that is for a HMO, so think 3-4 larger properties. 1 and 2 bedroom properties is what the industry was lobbying for, in the sense that there are plenty of landlords who do rent to students with only 1 or 2 bedroom flats or houses, yet that has been declined as well, so they will still not fall under that legislation. So under the Renters' Right Bill, they are proposing that every tenant can have a pet. Now, what does that actually mean? We would obviously all love to have a pet tarantula or a little chihuahua or a massive dog. It depends where you live. Now, it is not as hardcore as what people thought at first. Yes, indeed, we cannot ask for more money as a pet deposit. However, you can indeed market a property as no pets. There will be plenty of developments that under your head lease, you are not allowed to have pets at the development. It could be that you as the landlord or the agent has a severe allergy against dogs or cats or whatever it is. So you are not forced that you should advertise all across board for pets. However, once a tenant is actually in the property, you can then not refuse them a pet if they bring a pet into the property. You will have no say over that, and you will also not be able to terminate that tenancy. So again, it will always come down to very clear vetting of tenants when you meet them, having good chats with them, open communication, transparency of what you will and will not accept. But here at Base, we love our pets, and what we have seen in our own portfolio is that tenants with pets do make long-term tenants, and all these horror stories that they try to make you believe, so far, touch wood, we have not yet had one of those. So people are wondering if the Renters' Right Bill is really going to bring such massive changes. It is indeed the biggest change that our industry is experiencing in coming up to 40 years. The last Housing Act was dated 1988. However, really, people's behaviour, tenants' behaviour isn't just going to change from one day to the next. Tenants are not just going to move into a property and 2 or 3 months later decide to pack up and leave again. Moving house is stressful, it's time consuming, and it's expensive. And what we can see here at Base is that we are already tracking above the average London tenancy length. So on average in London, you'll find that tenants stay in place for approximately 2 years. Here at Base, we're probably hitting closer to 3 and sometimes even longer. That is not going to change at all, so please don't worry about that. The reason why tenants would vacate, there are several reasons. It could be a change in their lifestyle. They're moving in with a partner, or they have been from abroad and they finally had enough and they're going back home. It could be geographical, meaning that they get a better job, or they take up a different profession or whatever, and they have to move, so they're now moving out. And obviously, thirdly, and this is something that we do expect will have a bit of an impact because of the Renters' Right Bill with the yearly rent reviews that I believe landlords are going to enforce, is that eventually, if rents become too expensive, that tenants will decide that it is time to vacate. But those are really the only 3 reasons why a tenant would leave. And as long as you're a good landlord and a good agent, I don't really expect that there are going to be that many changes.